Your repurposed freighter drifts through space. As you stare out at the star-flecked void, another ship comes in. Wait, is this sci-fi? I thought we agreed on a World War II campaign. Oh, did we? That's cool. I can pivot. The smell of smoke curdles in your nostrils. Hold up, I thought we were prepping for a zombie apocalypse campaign. All right, here's what we're doing. It's the year 3700. Humanity's elite fled to other planets long ago, taking with them all forms of advanced technology. Earth survivors scrape by with historic tools as weird phenomena plague abandoned nuclear sites. Witnesses report seeing glowing lights and the dead rising from their graves. And amidst the chaos, 3 strangers will meet in a dim bar. A veteran zombie slayer, a disgraced general out for revenge, and a space mercenary sent to investigate the power plants. Now describe your characters. How did you do that? I have the right tools for the job. Your repurposed... Oh, hi. Are we late? By 5 minutes? Yes. Was I doing anything important? No. Welcome in, King Maglat, Savage Splendor, welcome in. Chenault Don 311, hello, welcome. Manfred. Ever since I started playing Dragon Age Veilguard, the name Manfred is a little bit more loaded for me now. Those who get it, get it. Welcome in, it's so good to see you. How are all y'all diddly dang doing? How's your day? Raffle to get a holiday card from Grace's dog. Oh, that's a good idea. A little Trouble Bubble themed Christmas card? Oh my goodness, you'd be so handsome. He just got his hair cut, so he's looking very, very handsome. Maybe we'll send out Christmas cards. That would be fun. Dougie Two Legs, hey, how's it going? It's time to look and listen to words and disassociate. My specialty. I'm not even here right now. I'm somewhere back here, just watching. How you doing, Dougie? Moose, welcome in. How are you? It was not as bad a wait as the wait for Steve last Monday. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm super glad that we're like continuing to do this on Mondays. Just like last week, Steve will be here again at the end of this stream. Manfred for Warhammer fans is very loaded. Wait, explain it to me. Because I have never played Warhammer. I probably won't play Warhammer, but I do enjoy the lore of Warhammer. I had a very quiet day at work. It was nice. I'm glad to hear that. That sounds nice. It was a quiet day at work for us too, because we were just like hunkered down in total concentration. We have to write 2 little books by the end of this week, and we're making good progress. But it was busy, busy, busy. I'm seeing your commercial on the internet. Yeah, those of you that have peeped Dungeon Craft's new video. Don't mean to brag or anything, but you know, that's us. That's Amazing Adventures. We're the sponsor for their newest video. Pretty excited about it. He's dapper now. He's very, very dapper. Hey, I quit smoking over the weekend. First time in 20 years. That is what we love to see. That rocks. Dude, congratulations. Breaking a hobby, any hobby, is like really admirable and cool. Like just making the decision, like I'm going to stop doing this and shape up. That rocks. Quitting smoking is the fucking gauntlet of like breaking hobbies. It's like, I'm happy that I have never been like a smoker, because I do not envy the monumental task of like quitting. You have all my admiration. Congratulations. You're going to crush it. Because GW used to publish more. Here's the thing. People have been saying GW in the Team Troll chat. Not the Team Troll chat. Really, it's Steve. Steve has been like using GW today as code for a newsletter that might go out soon. There's going to be an Easter egg for something GW. So you just rocketed that back into my brain. Manfred von Karstein is a vampire lord or something like that. All right. I like the name Manfred because it kind of seems like someone, like it's the name of an alien who had to come up with a human sounding name on the spot. Like he didn't have like a human alter ego, like disguise set up ready. So like he looks the part, but somebody's like, "Hey, what's your name?" And he just like, "My name is Manfred. I am Manfred. I'm Manfred. A strong name, named because I'm a man and I'm Fred.
Can you see that guy?
Manfred." It's just like
Yeah.
it sounds fake.
Oh.
Hey Lando, welcome in. I don't play Warhammer or 40k myself, but I love. What is WRFP? I've never heard of that before. Using the Nico patch and fun to replace the physical habit. That rocks. Hey, Death Angel, welcome in. Hello, hello. Congrats on the newfound start. Oh my goodness, thank you. Yeah, it's my first time being in like a with my face in like a thing. It was fun to it was fun to like create that ad. I think I said this last week, but we bought that ad slot from Professor DM before I actually had an ad written or conceptualized or much less done. So I just had to like really, really quickly think of something because I had nothing. I've been trying to think of an Amazing Adventures ad for like weeks, maybe a month at least. And yeah. Why does your category say World of Warcraft? Oh, Pat, good catch. You know what? I swear I changed this earlier. And it like didn't save because the title didn't update either.
Yeah.
You know what? Whatever.
Yeah.
Let the masses think that we're playing World of Warcraft. Let us catfish the masses of the gaming community into thinking that we're playing World of Warcraft. They're going to come in here, think they're getting Azeroth, and they're going to get Aihrde instead. And that's how we'll get them. We are going to play World of Warcraft together eventually.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
Petition to see Nonk so I can say hi. Ooh. Hey, Nonk.
Hey yo.
Dougie says hi.
Hi Dougie.
He says hi, Dougie.
I'm playing World of Warcraft over here.
He's playing World of Warcraft right now. So if you hear stuff about World of Warcraft, that's why. Maybe he grew up in a town with a girl named Fred and they need to distinguish between so there's like woman Fred and man Fred.
Yeah, that's me too. That's Mosey.
There are only two genders and it's woman Fred and man Fred. Hey, new type, welcome in. Are we going to discuss WotC burning in hell?
Brother, why
I have my own thoughts on that.
teasing us with their spears?
But, you know.
All the way to the Undercity.
World of Troll Lords. We're here. We've arrived. I might know too much about GW, Warhammer, 30k, 40k. Is there a 50k? Is there a 20k? A 10k? How far does this thing go? I saw your ad on a Dungeon Craft video with Professor Dungeon Master. Great job. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Super, super cool of him to put us on that video. It's very timely and really important discussion. So I'm happy that we were able to get in on that one. So unfred, non-Fred, child friend. This is my dog. Dog Fred. This is my friend Fred. All Fred. And if you're Italian, Alfredo. Anyway, on that really stupid note, let's talk about Aihrde.
Yeah, this is hands down the best starting zone.
Because I promised Steve that we were going to stay on task today. So the last time we left off last week, sorry, I'm like a little bit blurry and I can't really unblur it manually without like fucking up the whole stream, but whatever, it's fine. Is dog Fred a boy Fred or a girl Fred? Is it a golden doodle Fred or a labradoodle Fred? Anyway, we are gonna read The Winter Dark. We're continuing to make our way through the greatest and most recent catastrophe
Yeah,
that has
I actually
ravaged
think
the
that
world
the
of
worst
Aihrde.
one is,
Whoa, my God! Wait, I can fix
I'd say
this.
the worst one is actually.
I can fix
Hell
this.
Hill.
Place your bets.
I think it's a beautiful place.
Place your bets.
think
Can I
it's
fix
really
this? Or am I gonna have to
Just
like
something
go in and
about
fuck with the
it
stream
is-
and like manually do it?
I don't
Oh,
know, it
oh,
just feels annoying to go through. Like nothing feels convenient.
oh. Wait, I almost had. Oh no, I almost had it.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I
there's
do
just
it?
like a lot of like
Will
little
I do
nooks
it?
and crannies in there that you have to get into.
Oh
and
my God, you've got to be kidding me.
I don't know. It just something about the way it's set
Your
up.
stunning beauty is giving the camera a hard time. Oh my goodness. Stop. Wait, 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 wait. Everyone who bet that I can't do it,
Probably
you win. Give me like 1 second. It's going to be a black screen for a second. Oh God, I'm in the void. And this is how it must have been. At the time before times, the days before days, as are detailed in the Mammoth Scrolls, when the All-Father was deep in slumber, and all about him was the void. And he had a horrid nightmare, and cast a stain upon the void, and that stain, his name was John Cena. I'm losing my mind. Anyway, we're fixed. We're back. I don't know if I'll ever really be fixed. This is the WotC strategy. These are the conversations that they have at WotC. If it had worked, she would have been allowed to say she has power. That would have been the force. Really, that's all I was doing. I wasn't like messing with the focus or anything. I was tapping into the force. And it turns out the force is not with me always. If it's blurry, it doesn't matter. We're here for the story. I appreciate you, Manfred. But we are here for the story. So we have been making our way through the Winter Dark. The Winter Dark Wars, and in particular, the onset of the Winter Dark Wars. Do type, you're very sweet. Freaking, Grace needs to start writing the next adventure, The Last Airbender. Oh! The Winter Dark War has officially begun. If you missed it last week, a demon god has been basically summoned to Aihrde by a very ambitious and foolish sorcerer named Malazor. Many of Aird's forces united to try to stop him from doing this, and unfortunately were not successful. The entire race of elves, in fact, have fled Aihrde in favor of a place called the Chenault. Hey, Water Jay, welcome in. Welcome back. So they're kind of in like a Fey realm removed from Aihrde, realizing their mistake and realizing that Unclar has come to Aihrde and the people of Aihrde need their help and there might not be a home to come back to when the Winter Dark Wars are over. A great portion of the elves have tried to return, and unfortunately their way back has been blocked by Unclar. So there are a bunch of elves hanging out in limbo. The people of the Ethram have been kind of rallying their forces under the King Robert Luther, who has an order of, I think, paladins called the Scintillant Dawn. There was a particular sect of the people of Ethram that have fled looking for refuge with Corthane in his, I think, Hall of Windy Halls, I don't know, in Corthane's domain. And they did not find their way to the lands of Corthane, but what they did find is a special land that's been hidden and created by Tefnut, who is the goddess of rivers. And she kind of created this realm for them, anticipating that they would need it. So the people of the Ethram have kind of settled into this like strange, like blessed place, and they have called it the Greenling Fields. And they believe that this will be relatively safe throughout the winter dark, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. There is a man named Prince Morgeld who has kind of tasked himself and been tasked by the people with defending the Greenling fields. And in the meantime, Unklar is kind of waging war against the other gods of Aihrde and against the land of Aihrde itself. Unklar sees himself, because he was kind of born from the nightmare of the Allfather. And so Unklar's understanding of what the world should be, and Unklar's understanding of the Allfather's plan for the world, is this like nightmare scape that he was born in. And when he was summoned to Aihrde, he's like, this doesn't look like a horrid nightmare at all. These people have really messed this up. This isn't the Allfather's vision. I'll make it right. And so he's going about plunging Aihrde into darkness, basically. And that's just about where we are. Thanks, Lil. Yeah, I was last on the AI stream y'all did, which was a pretty good talk. Dude, thank you. I'm super glad that you thought so. I thought that was a really great talk and an important one to have, and it's good to just like chat about that stuff, you know? I agree with the general consensus. It's just lazy to use it and disregards the point of talent. I agree. And I think there's a lot to that conversation, but that's kind of where I land as well. AI is a cool resource. It's very interesting. I think that there are a lot of ways that we can use it to make our process faster and easier and cheaper, but decentering artists is not the answer, is my opinion. But that was last week. I won't get into it. I promised Steve we'd stay on track. So we're going to dive back into the Winter Dark Wars and chat about it. And then after this hour is up, or well, after this 40 minutes is up, really, Steve is going to join us. And then we're going to have like a little Q&A situation talking about the world of Aihrde. So if y'all have any questions about Aihrde as we are reading through this story, hang on to them or ask them in chat, and I'll scroll up and try to remember to look for them. But yeah, get cozy. Settle into whatever kind of task you'd like to do while we're reading this story. For anyone that's here for the first time, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm happy that you're here. And yeah, we're just going to read a story together and then answer some questions afterward. So without further ado, get yourself a cozy beverage, put on a nice sweater, settle in, trollza. I do not have a beverage to cheers with this time, so I'll just kind of clink. Prince Morgeld fortified the island, building walls even into the sea. And the Greenling fields is where we are right now. And these stacked upon one the other, so that the taking of one yielded only another standing in the way. He set a singular stair from the sea that wound up the bastions, so that any bent on taking the island would do so at great cost. His fleet he set in coves, sheltered from any storm. Atop it all, he built a palace of marvelous beauty, its windows facing west, to the wall of worlds, so that he could see the Allfather's mist. The prince learned in time to look past it, to look into the uttermost void that is beyond all things. Hey, Jace, nice. He called his island the land of bliss, for it grew no food, nor any plant of any kind, but some few wild mosses, and no animals but wild sea birds occupied its heights. There he lived his deathless life in the company... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. Sorry. I got a little bit confused. I think we just jumped to... I guess I don't know who we're talking about right now, because they're talking about gods. Prince Morgeld was not an immortal that I know of. I'll have to remember to ask about this paragraph later. I think maybe we're talking about Corthane here. Or maybe not. I don't know. We'll ask Steve. Remind me to ask him about the Land of Bliss.
Good. They've reached the end game.
Okay. Anyway, skipping past that. All the other peoples of Aihrde. apart from the greenling fields, had fallen into bondage. Hey, yo. Anyway, under the dark god Unklar, they bore little hope, and many died for want, and others wandered in the wilderness. In time, rumors came of a prophecy as spoken to Unklar by Jaren the Wise, before they took him and bound him in pain and blood upon the walls of Aufstrag. Tales relate that the books of Jaren foretold that when the Durandale blade returned, it would spell the end of Unklar's reign. The Durandale blade being, for anyone that doesn't know, a blade that was forged by, let me make sure I get this right, Emperor Sebastian I, who at one point had a different name, Rapscallion. Rapscallion became Emperor Sebastian I after allying himself with Malazor, who is the sorcerer that summoned Unklar to Aihrde. But Rapscallion... No, wait. Yes. Yeah, okay. So Sebastian forged the blade, Durandale, thinking that he would have to use it against Malazor, but actually it would spell the end for Unklar, not Malazor. Anyway. Rumor of the prophecy spread far and wide, and men came to the ruins of Dugisalon, where Robert Luther fell. And there they found the ghost of Jaren, or so men said. The ghost haunted those towers with the promises of an age to come. Others did not believe this, and saw only the broken spirit of a defeated man who sought a king that died on the walls of his castle. It's true, new type. Hey, Warhammer Actual, thanks for joining.
Say it again.
Other legends circulated as well.
That's cool.
They told stories of the return of the sword Durandale, how Luther, father of the king, would carry it to slay Unklar. Furthermore, that the holy flame would emerge from hiding and remake the world with its language, removing the stains of Unklar. More importantly, were the tales of the blade Decipero. Oh my god, it was Decipero, not Durandale. I got the lore wrong. Anyway, more importantly were the tales of the blade Decipero, Sebastian's sword. For many knew that within that steel, the emperor, no mean sorcerer, cast the spell of unmaking. That was a horrid binding, which, if properly cast, would close the paths of Umbra and seal Unklar in the void once more. Straight to jail. Do not collect $200. I don't know the lore. Durandale and Decipero, they're totally different. How could I... classic mistake. Anyway, with the fall of Ethram, none remained strong enough to oppose Unklar. Rumors of him spread to distant lands, and men constructed temples in his honor and made sacrifice to him. Those who resisted his wrath devoured, or vanished into the wilds and the dark places of the world, to hide from him and his servants, to bide their time. Not since the second Rin, when Orndul the Red God ruled Aihrde, had one of the Val Ericune thrown its shadow across all the world. In this, the age of the cobbler ended, and the light of the sun left the world. The age of Winter Dark began. So we have now exited the coming of the Winter Dark. We are now firmly in the Winter Dark. Thus begins the sixth oration, or the sixth chapter of the Codex of Aihrde. If you're following along at home, we're reading through the Andanuth, which is like the narrative section of the book. And hey, if you don't know what we're talking about, the Codex of Aihrde After Winterdark is a book that's available in the Trollord store. And it has 12,000 years of written history, and we are reading through the narrative part that's kind of more useful for players or GMs that want to run a game in Aihrde that's very, very detailed. Otherwise, if you're a GM, you'll want just the first half of the Codex of Aihrde, which is the Almanac, which has kind of the quick reference guide for all the information in this book. So anyway, end of the ad. Penance in the form of Aihrde-based limericks. Oh God, can I do an Aihrde-based limerick off the top? I know I can. There once was a stain on the void, who, when summoned, made everyone quite afraid. He ruled the whole world, and wait, no. He ruled over Aihrde, and though the world was quite scared, they what was the rhyme? Void. They 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 made Onklar quite annoyed. I'm sorry for that. Make sure to smash that dislike button, unsubscribe, unfollow. Make sure to just send all the hate. That was more of a punishment for you guys. Anyway, hey, Blaze, just in time. You're actually just here in time to start the 6th oration of the Winter Dark. The Winter Dark has arrived in Aihrde. So let me read this little thing here. How about a haiku instead? Oh my God, I can't deny like a poetry-based challenge. A dark shadow falls upon the whole world of Aihrde. Unklar's very bad. Snaps poet. Anyway, the 6th oration of the Winter Dark. Being the 6th Rin of the world. Rin are ages in Aihrde. An account and history in brief of the millennial darkness, or the long centuries, most commonly called the Winter Dark, of the warping of the world, the binding of the twin sisters, the myriad wars of Unklar, the horned god, of Aufstrag and Hell's creation, the Mogwrul and other beasts, of the Winter Dark wars. The chroniclers account this, the 6th Rin, upon the Arc of Time. I did not expect a poetry weakness, now that I know that. That's what you do with chat. You give them your weakness. But you guys give me better ones, and I'll read them after we get through some of this. Give me a limerick or a haiku, please, about the Winter Dark. And I'll read it and we'll have fun. I should have gotten some water, but I didn't, and that's my own fault. In the beginning, some open resistance to Unklar's rule remained. Of the dwarves, Grundlik Hol and Norgrad Cam held out for some time. Many other folk in distant lands did as well, though their tales do not come into this telling. Most of the people of Aihrde fell to fearful worship of him. Next live stream, graceful freestyle. Here's the thing, that's my worst nightmare. I'll never do that. That's the one thing I'll never do in a live stream or in person or ever in my life. I'll never freestyle rap. After the fall of the Ethram, the forces of Unklar battled the dwarves of the Bergrucken, which is a mountain range in Aihrde, all those who served the king of Norgrad Cam. They remained defiant, and the king of those halls would not, at first, close his doors. But after the fall of Keomar and the Ethram, he saw that the evil wind of Unklar would end the brass halls. He called all his sundry folk into his realm, and what folk of the Ethram he could save. He ordered the outer tunnels pulled in and sealed. At last, he came to his mighty gates, with his warhammer in hand, and looked upon the setting sun. Did you just get me water? Thank you. Get you a man that'll get you water. Get you a man that'll make you hydrated.
Wait, what?
God, that helps so much. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
He looked upon the setting sun. Oh, for the last time, too. We'll warm ourselves in the dark, as is our people's wont, but gird ourselves for war, for as with all things this darkness shall pass. The gates he ordered shut and sealed. But when Unklar arrived, he called the dwarves to come forth. They did not come, but instead sounded their horns and challenged Unklar to come into the halls. For even if you can break these gates, your folk will be years dying in these deeps. The darkness answered this challenge, but the gates would not break, no matter the power thrown against them. In the end, Unklar himself attempted to batter the gates down, but they would not yield to mighty Uriel, though he promised to root them out in time. But it was not so, and Norgorod Cam remained as it has for all the long years of history, unblemished by war. Unklar turned then to Grundlik Hole, for he knew that its magic was less than Norgorod Cam. The dwarves of Grundlik Mountains were a society of warriors, not steeped in the rune magic of their cousins. For this, they paid dearly when Unklar battered the gates open and unleashed his vast host upon the halls. For 9 years the battle continued, and the losses upon both sides defied comprehension. The terrible suffering, the murder of innocents, the grinding battles, dwarven soldiers fighting along and in groups in deep tunnels and high stairs until the end families fought, together and alone, never yielding but through blood and broken iron. But in the end, the kingdom lay in wreck and ruin. The fall of that kingdom echoed in the world, and from that day to this, the dwarven folk shudder and weep at the memory of it. For the greater part of those folk were cruelly slain, but many of... Sorry, there's a typo in here. I'm just trying to make sure that I... The greater part of those folk were cruelly slain, but many of them became minions of Unklar, and were carted off to doom in Aufstrag, where they became slaves to his will. Only a few fled into the hinterlands of the Grundlik Mountains, there to live wild, dangerous lives. Thus ended one of the oldest and greatest kingdoms of the dwarves. Thus Unklar, the horned god, settled within the halls of Aufstrag and fortified it anew, building ever greater bastions. He constructed an outer wall in front of the gate and towers within. The gates he made of brass, forcing the dwarves of Grundlik Hole to construct it, although they cursed it without his knowing. These gates he named the Ahargon Den, the mouth of darkness. He called to those who served him, and he gave them places in the halls of his power. The Tvungen, which, if you remember, Tvungen are demons who reside in the Endless Pools, which is Orndul, the Red God's domain. The Tvungen served Unklar, and the Tfungenos are demons from the same area who don't serve Unklar. Or at least I think that's the... I'm pretty sure that's the difference. Anyway. The Tvungen who remained in Aihrde, great and small, came first. Many others followed. Sorcerers, goblins, wicked-hearted men, orcs, hobgoblins, and other beasts beside.
Yeah, these guys are...
Some of these were mortal, others of the unnamed Val Ericune, these are minor gods. All served the dark power that sat upon the throne of Aliosh and the world.
Okay.
Aufstrag is set in the ruins of Aliosh. As warning to all those who resisted him, Unglar took up the battered body of Jaren the Wise, servant to Robert Luther, last king of Keomar. The monk still lived, though his aged body could not have lasted long in the dungeons of that place. Unglar gave of himself to the monk, breathing the breath of life into his lungs, so that Jaren became immortal. The horned god crucified Jaren then, nailed his body above the gates of his citadel, the Ahargon Den. There he hung for 1,000 years, the slow trickle of his blood spilling upon the ground. Many came to see him, reveling in his suffering, and his blood became a drug to evil lords who thirsted for such things. Malazor himself took pleasure in tormenting Jaren, and he spent many years in the task. But it was, nonetheless, a holy sufferance. Legends relate that one Leonidas, a follower of the scintillant dawn, came to Jaren and took up some of the blood in a cup and bore that cup into the world, and that the blood of the holy monk could heal the wounded and bring comfort to the weary. Years passed, and the massive edifice of Aufstrag became a cesspool of all things vile, a living thing, a hell. Tunnels, great and small, fanned out beneath the halls into the rock of the world. Towers and buttresses rose into the sky, and the fortress city climbed higher. Within the city itself, the construction never ceased, as walls were torn down and new ones built, rooms filled in or hollowed out. Aufstrag's bulk proved large enough so that all those within could build and rebuild to their eyes' desire, and so they did. Eventually, 21 distinctive levels, domains.
This might be bad.
21 distinctive levels, domains, took shape, and each of these comprised many levels of rooms and ramps, tunnels, halls, and stairs. They bore such names as the Bone Halls and the Horn God's Acre, and they housed terrors, nightmares born of Unglar's fell design or worse, those of their own ill intent. Aufstrag became the embodiment of evil in Aihrde, and all things that sought a place in his hierarchy dwelt there. As is known, the souls of the restless dead meander upon the arc of time. They pass from the world of the living to the endless pools, though some heth waylays, marked by their lives' evil deeds, to pass beneath the fourth Nacht, the Maw of Huadun, and come even to the wretched plains. Unglar sought to change this, and set his will against that of the Red God. He sought to bend the arc of time to him in his domain, but that power was beyond him, for the Allfather and the Val Ericune established the ordering of the world long ago, and the judgment of Corthane still bound that ordering. What Unglar could effect was a culling upon the ark, and those minions he deemed worthy, whose evil stood forth in his darkness, he culled, and brought them to Aufstrag to suffer his will for eternity. There, the evil dead gathered, to serve in torment for all time. Men called it hell, and knew it as the equal of the wretched plains, and yet was unique in all the maelstrom, for it existed within the world and without. Unglar's power waxed great in the early days of his rule, and after the fall of Grundlik Hol, he set himself to the task of reshaping the world. Foremost, he gathered those of the orders of the Val Ericune and Val Austerlich whom he had not slain, and bound them to himself. Of these he made 7 his captain kings, and granted them dominion over wide regions of the world, though he kept the lands of Ursal as his private domain. The captain kings ruled in his name, and they were called by men the Lord of Sorrow, Mongorth, Aman, Croxale, Neolek, Hexentul, and Goragon. They were greater devils and marshaled battles of Tfungen and hosts of men. In time, they proved to be an unruly lot and rose in rebellion against their master and fought one another for greater control and power. The Lord of Sorrow was chief amongst these captain kings and commanded Unklar's hosts in battle, often against other captain kings. The captain kings set forth to rule in the Dark One's stead. The captain kings set forth to rule in the Dark One's stead, and they largely ordered the world as he willed it. These captain kings sought to control the Val Erakun and Val Austerlich that remained in Aihrde. These they made to serve the darkness, or else imprisoned them, and where they could, slew them. Though many fled into the wilderness, many more fell into darkness. Cheers, am I right? The Lord of Sorrow moved into the west, and there built a mighty structure that housed all his filth, and it became a den of iniquity so foul that men called him the Lord of Flies. He ruled there as a beast, eating the living from the spit and torturing the few who defied him. In after ages, he rose against his master many times, but Unklar never cast him aside from his seat of power, for his rule pleased the horned god more than any other. The other captain kings built their houses as best suited their desires, and spread across the wide world, far removed from Aufstrag and the power of their god. Men worshipped them, or fought them, as suited their own design. Unklar did not restrict himself to the divine ordering of things. He set about creating a true empire of men. He ordered roads built between the larger cities and fortresses, building castles along the way to better house his troops and imprison his enemies. He awarded loyal men with lands and serfs, and these appointed assessors to gauge the wealth of the land, and marshaled legions of troops to guard it. Taxes, duties, and tithes filled the coffers of Unklar's minions, who performed the role of lord or lady. The new masters controlled the more mundane affairs of the world, paying the dark god in sacrifices of blood and treasure. At last, Unklar took rest and pondered the world and his ownership of it. He thought upon the countless ages spent in the void. Ever powerful as the early gods, Corthane, Mordias, and Orndul, Unklar knew his substance. He knew of himself as a memory, a passing emotion of the Allfathers, and therefore unbound by the language of creation, nor restricted in his doings by the substance of the void. He saw the work of the Allfather and thought to himself that creation had gone astray. The horned god thought, too, that he would repair the damage done by folly and neglect, for ever did he see himself as the better part of the Allfather. With this in mind, he set to refashioning the whole of the world of Aihrde. The whole meaning the entire world of Aihrde, not just like a hole in Aihrde. Even the whole, not one significant hole. The entire world, all of it.
Holes over there?
No, I'm specifically not talking about holes. I'm talking about the whole.
Oh, the hole.
The whole, as in the entire world, not the whole. You know,
The hole.
not the
The hole.
not the whole. The whole. You know,
The hole.
the whole. Yeah. Glad we cleared that up. Anyway. When Unklar came to Aihrde, he made war upon the gods. Of all those he contested with, only the sisters avoided his wrath. Or so it was in the beginning. The sisters being Aihrde and Aivet, the sun and the moon of Aihrde. The sisters turned their minds away from Aihrde and all its suffering, and their light was pale upon the world. These days were the very years of the Catalyst Wars. In their hearts, the sisters longed for the deeps of the seas, the heights of the mountains, and all the manifold regions of the world. They turned then to the maelstrom and set themselves to gathering worlds of their own, for there was much in the empty places filled with the debris of the firmament. They gathered this up and fashioned worlds of their own. The sisters knew not the language of creation, and their worlds were imperfect. The maiden of light fashioned great balls of burning gases, but they had no foundation. The maiden of night built worlds of cold stone, and they had no life. They set them to spinning in the maelstrom, but to no avail. Their labors were imperfect, for they never forgot their games and the chase of one and the other through the heavens, and what little of the Allfather's wisdom they learned in the long ago days before days. They had long since forgotten. Unklar came to them then, and asked them what life they gave their worlds, and they replied that there was none. He smiled, feigning sorrow and pity, and he beguiled the sisters. He told them that they should go to the void and cast about for the power of the language, and that they would gain the gift of life. The sisters lamented their world's lack of life, and for a short while removed themselves from the Aird's heavens, even to the edge of the great empty. The world fell to darkness and terror. Men called it the long night, for it lasted many years. Unmolested, Unklar set to remaking the world in the quiet dark. Beneath the world he found the bones of the Allfather, and he harvested what magic from them that he could. He cursed the sisters, for they were undiminished by his power, and like he, they were made of the Allfather. More, they were made of the flesh of his flesh, and were whole and powerful. First, the horned god made war on the sisters by taking up the lust of the Allfather and hurling it into the void. There it burned with a fierce fire and lit the heavens. He did this to dampen the sisters' light. This was the Allfather's lust as fashioned by Unklar, and it was later called Airdkun by the dwarves, that is, the Allfather's eye. The elves called it the Teler Urian, the light unseen. Men called it the day star, for it burned ever bright in the night sky, and one could often see it in both the early morning and early evening. Unklar's great spite bound the world of Aihrde to the star for many seasons, for he wished to mock the people of the world of what they could not have. The day star marred all the beauty of the night sky, in that it diminished the sisters and the ancient stars of Wennefar's making. It cast no warmth on Aihrde, nor did it shed any light on the world, and the winter of those years was cold without match. It was ever after an evil star that men did not look upon unless through need.
All right, boss. So for Master Nache, I only need the cougar femur.
During the long night, the dragon Frafnog, remember him? Grew restless, for his love of Wennefar was undiminished with time, and he could not see the stars of her making, for the day star blotted out their distant light. The great Wyrm defied Unglar, and rousing at last, he took up the heart of the Allfather and gave it to Wennefer, and bid her fashion it as she had in the stars of old, and hurl it into the heavens. This she did, and it hung in the north sky, and the day star dimmed in its presence. Unglar despised it. The Allfather's heart, as cast out by Wennefer, is called by the dwarves the Aihrde Onu, that is, the stone of the Allfather. The elves call it the Teler Urseth, the guiding light, while men call it the evening or north star. The star lit the world with a dim light and gave comfort to those oppressed. And I think, wait a minute, we have one more. All right, we got one more sentence, and then we're going to have Steve come and join us. I lied, 2 sentences. Thus, the long night ended, and light returned to the world. But in the end, it proved weak, and only alleviated the sufferings of all the peoples a little. And surely Wennefer will be made to pay for her this like small rebellion against Unglar. Let me just really quick invite Steve, because it is about that time. So the message is sent. We'll do that, and then yeah, let me see. Did y'all write any haikus? Ooh, we come together. Soft words bring stories to life, told with perfect grace. A haiku about story time. Oh my goodness, that's really sweet. That's a really good one. He already refashioned the Grundlich hole, am I right? Ooh, back in the first edition, I wrote an adventure where the players got involved in the search for the leader of the Galeb Dur. That's a monster. It was called the King of Rocks That Roll. That fucking rules, dude. All right, I think Steve is on his way. We'll see. Dwarves are experts on rocks and rolling them onto their enemies. I take that for granted. Oh my god. Snaps poet. I see you, Manfred. Plot twist, it's tequila. It is. It's tequila, and it's a time. A time and a half.
Ooh, what's over here? Oh, pale name.
In Aihrde where shadows creep low, winter's breath brings the chill and the snow. With each frostbitten night, heroes rise up to fight as the darkness reveals what we sow. Ooh, okay, poet. I see you. Limerick. A monk visited Altamira in Aihrde, where a demon made people scared. He sat in the grass after kicking its ass because he was a monk who cared. That's awesome. Oh, I think Steve's trying to join. Hello, hello.
Have I arrived?
You have arrived.
Excellent.
You're
There's
here.
A whole lot of buttons I had to push to get all this stuff going.
It was a long and painful journey, but you
It
made
was. It's exhausting.
We're reading limericks and haikus from chat about Aihrde.
Oh, nice. Very cool. I am due for writing a nursery rhyme. I've got, I don't think you've read it yet, the adventure we've got coming out in a couple of weeks.
I've not read it.
It's based around Ossuth, the Eldritch Goblin, and he has an obsession with collecting teeth. So I'm going to write a nursery rhyme about this. The children are terrified of this creature near the village.
That's
so
such a good subject for a nursery rhyme. It's so freaky.
How's it going, Lando? How's it going, Beazle? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to get my word processor out tonight and have it go at it.
When you say your word processor, is it like a typewriter or?
Yeah, so that's so funny that nobody knows what that is.
I know.
So
Word,
when I first
the program word.
So when I actually started creating the world of Aihrde, I was in the army, and computers were becoming a thing, right? They
Mm-hmm.
were, whatever, but they've been a little bit, but they're really getting out there big time. It's still Windows 3.1 or whatever. I don't know, whatever.
Mm.
But I couldn't afford any of that crap, but I bought a word processor, which was just a monitor, keyboard, and the little, I guess, the computing part, and it only is a word program. That's
Oh,
all it
okay.
is. So it's like typing on a monitor, and it saves it to the device.
Yeah.
And I saw one of those advertised the other day, and I told my wife that Kathy, I said, I absolutely have to have one. So she, unbeknownst to me, she went and bought it. So I will be I'll be sitting at a desk with just my little word processor, undisturbed by the rest of the world.
That's awesome. I
Yes.
The first conventions I went to was AWP, which is a writing conference, and there was a booth across from ours that sold, I guess, a word processor where it was,
Probably.
but it was like chic and like cutesy. It was shaped like a typewriter and like
Yeah.
it had the
This
typewriter
one's shaped.
keys.
This was very interesting. I put a picture of it on my Twitter page. You can see it's shaped like a typewriter, and it's got I guess the processing part is the back part of it, where your spool would be, where your ink spool would be,
Sure.
and it can attach to the Wi-Fi, so it's got buttons with that. It's got like 3 folders that you can save things to, but I'm not connecting it to nothing.
Yeah.
I just I don't want none of that. Because it's interesting when you're writing, especially when you're under deadlines and you're writing something that gets a little, long in the tooth. It's so easy to go, oh, maybe someone responded to a tweet. Let me go check Instagram, whatever. And it's not, it never ends well. 25 minutes later,
Yeah.
time lost.
I feel like your writings on that word processor are going to be some of the only things that survive the 7th rin of Earth after like our gone fod.
Yeah, it may be coming sooner than we know, and you never know.
You never know, so why not?
Well, they keep saying that solar flare is going to knock all our satellites out, and the internet's done. So there you go.
I didn't need to sleep tonight. That's fine. I'll totally just think about the heat death of the universe instead. That sounds great.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Much more pleasant.
Does anyone do creative writing with a courtroom recorder, like a stenograph? You could.
You could.
There's a lot of creative things that are said in courtrooms, believe it or not.
Yes, I've actually read some of those transcripts. They're absolutely hilarious. What people say under oath.
There was a case in my hometown where a man assaulted another man with a frozen pork chop. And
there you go.
I haven't read the transcript from that one, but I assume it was interesting.
It's got to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Odd One Man asks, how did you come up with the name Aihrde?
So Aihrde, originally, when I was creating that part of it, a lot of this was created while I was in the Army, but what was really created while I was in the Army was a novel that I wrote called The Voiceless Song. And that's actually the original birth of Unklar, and how I conceived his kind of arrival on the world, which is vastly different than what actually happened in the Codex. But all of that stuff kind of played into the world of Aihrde, and I began creating off of that. And then later, because I was so deeply enmeshed in German language then and later when I was working on my PhD, master's degree and PhD, Aihrde is the German word for Earth. And I wanted something that was, people don't really call their planet anything other than, this is where I live. It's like people who, it's like, pre-industrial people call themselves the people all the time because, well, they're the people. And there's no one else. We're the people.
The folk.
Everybody else is whatever they are.
The dwarves call themselves the folk.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny how many pre-industrial tribes you'll see that, their name, it sounds beautiful, but when it's translated, it's just people. It's just where it dies, whatever. We're just hanging out by the 7-Eleven, whatever we're doing. But so Aihrde is E-R-D-E was the original spelling of Aihrde, and that's the German word for Earth. Now, we released the original Codex of Aihrde as with that title, and it sold well and fine reception. But we got, 3 or 4 emails from customers in Germany, from fans in Germany that said, this, I know this sounds cool in Arkansan, but to us, you're just saying Earth.
Arkansan.
Yeah, that's That's not cool. So I went back in and kind of
Yeah.
redid it. I didn't want to lose the word Erde because I didn't want to lose that kind of that link to the early creation of the world.
Yeah.
So I created the world Aihrde, which is a derivative, a Vulgate derivative of the Dwarven word Erde, Aihrde, which means father. And Al Aihrde is all father for the dwarves. So Aihrde becomes, this is the world of the father, Al Aihrde, and that
Hmm.
slowly is bastardized into the world of Aihrde. And somewhere on a yellow pad of paper, I don't know where, if we could ever find it, there's probably 30 derivatives as I just tried to logically create that
Yeah.
sound that I was looking for.
Do fantasy spellings of.
It's over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
How does it look? How does it sound? Um, yeah. So that is where the world of Aihrde word came from.
Well, Moose is asking a question that I have often wondered myself,
Uh
frankly. How come Grace is not a god in Aired?
oh.
What
Well,
I actually wonder is like, are there gods that are based on people?
I still have to write the gods and monsters of Aihrde. I've written about maybe 10% of it. So there's
Damn.
plenty of time for a muse to come in.
I can
There you
audition
go.
for godhood.
Yes, absolutely.
Sick. Are there
That's how a lot of
any
that
like
pans out, though.
yeah? Are there any of the Val Ericune or Val Austerlich that are actually based on real people?
No, I don't think so. There's quite a few of the Valtumph that are based on characters and NPCs, but I don't even think any of the Val Austerlich are based on. I think all of those were created, some in game, but a lot as I was creating the world itself, as I was getting down to the gritty of creating the world of Air.
For sure. Well, hell yeah.
Yes, a weakness for poetry. Absolutely. I found your book of
For
poetry
sure.
the other day.
Oh yeah.
It's somewhere on there. I've got new
forgot that I gave
shelves.
you one.
Yeah, I'm moving stuff all over the place. I'm not sure what I did with it, but it's over there somewhere.
Hey, player some, welcome back. I'm planning on putting together some roll tables for a zombie campaign for the Amazing Adventures rule set. That's what we love to see.
Nice, nice.
I would love to. Well, we're actually writing a book of 101 adventure ideas right now for CNC, and the temptation is real to just put in like a little zombie thing in there. It's not in there yet.
Zombies are so easy. They're
just
so
yeah. You can
And
do
they're
anything
fun.
with a zombie.
Yeah, it's the absolute perfect opponent.
It's the olive oil of fantasy monsters.
Yes.
It'll enhance anything.
Yep, it's absolutely perfect. You cannot go wrong with it because it has no moral compunction. There's no it's already dead. You don't have to worry about killing it.
You want it to be like more weighty and emotional. It's your loved one. Ugh.
There you go.
More lighthearted. They walk funny.
It's skipping towards you or whatever.
They stink. Ooh. Ooh, Oddman asks, question, in all you have made for CNC, what has amazed you the most?
So some clarification. Are you talking about kind of amazed me that people responded to, or more along the lines of something that I was surprised that we actually kind of put this together? What I think is
so maybe like what are you shocked that like came out of your own brain? Maybe
probably because I'm not a huge fan, that's the wrong word, but I don't dive into mythology very much. I don't read mythology very much.
Yeah.
And I think that I should say I don't want to say I'm amazed but I'm proud of the way the mythology and the world of Aihrde kind of tied together.
Yeah.
A lot of work went into it, but because that's not my strong suit at all.
Yeah.
When you read the history of Aihrde, because I've read so much history that's kind of
right.
I'm used to writing it, so I kind of know how to do it. But yeah, for the mythology to actually tie together, the most amazing of it all is, and and this was completely unplanned, was when I was creating Aihrde, I created everything around the language of creation and the Allfather. And Davis, kind of on his own, and we never talked about this type of stuff, was creating the world of Enzaya and the language of destruction.
Damn.
And
Okay.
it was very weird because we were in a pickup truck and we are driving to Origins, and we started having this conversation as soon as we left Little Rock. And by the time we had gotten to Memphis, which is like 2 hours later, this whole kind of these two canopies were just kind of rolling together in this perfect, weird, and it's reflective of Davis and I's personality. For those of you who don't know Davis Chenault, my brother, co-founder of Troller Games, co-creator of Castles on Stage with Macola. But Davis has a very pessimistic outlook on life, and I have a very optimistic outlook on life. So it's kind of going kind of mess together.
Something that I still want to do is have like a game with all of the trolls where we do like a world building exercise together and just see how you and Davis behave in a game like that.
Watching Davis's creative process is fun because it's not unlike he is when he's on stream. A lot of it's kind of stream of consciousness, and you can see he'll roll through creative processes and then discard them so fast. No, that's not gonna work. And he discards it, just moves on. Yeah. He won't sit and kind of muse and contemplate on it. It doesn't work. Move on. It's very interesting. It's very
that's kind of the best advice that I've gotten on like the writing front. It was by this guy. His life was insane. I wish that it was more relevant to the stuff that we do here because I would just talk about him nonstop. His name was George Crane, and he was like a mentor of mine for like one crazy summer. And he had this advice, which was like, you'll know if it's right. Yeah. And if it's not, don't hem and haw and like, oh, can I fix it? Just toss it.
Right. Yeah. It's very good advice. I don't follow that all the time. I'll frequently let an idea percolate for a while, and then I'll discard it, and then I'll go back to it and think, what can I do with this? How can this kind of weave into it?
Yeah.
But Davis won't. Davis will kick it to the side, much like your friend there, and just move on. So it's it's good advice. It's very good advice.
Sean O'Don says, Jeff from the Gaming Gang was wondering if there'd be like genre-focused supplements for Amazing Adventures. I figured there'd be something, and zombies would be great.
Yeah, so the thing up first for Amazing Adventures is going to be Star Siege. That's already written. It just needs to be kind of cleaned up and brought into line with the Amazing Adventures rule set. I want to say Tainted Lands is next, which is kind of a horror-based, otherworldly fantasy environment. It's a plane that lays on top of the world of Aihrde. So you can kind of pass between the two of them. Sort of think ethereal, but not. It's very different and horrific. Created originally by James Ward. But zombies is in either third or fourth. It's right up there in the top 5 because I want some kind of zombie thing. Because they're just perfect. It's the perfect apocalyptic. It's just perfect. The world's not destroyed by nuclear weapons or whatever. It's just the undead. It's you got a limitless supply of enemies, and now you got to figure out if you're going to eat dog food or canned corn or whatever it is you find in a cupboard somewhere. So.
It turns the life cycle into the life roller coaster, and
yes.
I want to write that adventure that was in the commercial, kind of.
Oh, absolutely! You've got to write that adventure.
That'd be super fun. As I was writing that commercial, it was just like, huh.
You roped in so many things in that 2 sentences that you said. It was awesome. And you had me when you said, was it something mysterious is investigating the old nuclear sites, which are obviously UFOs. So
it's aliens. The aliens are behind it.
They've come again.
What makes the two of you, Admin asks, the most wow? I think maybe they're wondering like what impresses us the most as far as like world building goes. Maybe like in other systems. That's a good question.
No, that's an interesting question. I think the thing that when I'm watching television or movies or I'm reading something, a story or whatever, it's when a character or an event takes a turn that I completely didn't expect.
That was
that
my
it's
first thing too.
so, because there's so many tropes that writers follow. They get into, and this is what we got to do. We got to have the spy do this, whatever. There goes the boat, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But when suddenly you're watching it and the story takes a sudden right hand turn or a left hand turn, and you're going, "What? Wait, what the fuck just happened?"
Yeah.
That I like the absolute most, without a doubt.
I think for me, it's like anyone who's seen the video that I uploaded to the YouTube channel about like tropes in tabletop RPGs will know that I like a healthy dose of pain and tragedy in my world building. Um, but it has to have a little bit of sweetness to it. It has to have that little speck of like hope and like that potential for things to just like maybe they'll just turn out good.
Right.
Um, in the Winter Dark, that's particularly true because fucking in all of the Winter Dark products in our store for CNC is like you're starting your adventure in a world that has just woken up from a 1,000-year reign of darkness and torture and everything terrible. And how awesome is that to be a
Yeah.
part of that world?
And you get to cut. It's one of the things I'm the most proud of because you get to cut the direction the world takes, your characters take, and the
Yeah.
story takes. Uh, you don't have to rely on the heroes that came before because they're gone, or gods or whatever.
The
They're out of the
nobility
picture.
that came before, the gods that came before, the kingdoms that came before, it's all been razed to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just stepping into this like cold spring morning and like
Yeah.
the snow is still melting off the grass and you have to ask yourself what you're going to do with this new world that's so much more interesting than like you exist under the reign of this horrible god. How will you defeat him?
Right.
It's like, no, the evil's gone. And
Yeah.
now you have to do something. What's your purpose?
What are you doing? Right. Which of these ancient legends, and I think that's probably, I mean, there's maybe forgotten realms. There's very few settings that have the depth of history that Aihrde does, and I think that's one of the things that the setting brings to the table. Is because once you begin that journey, you can open the Codex of Aihrde, skim through, and you can find any number of legends to build upon, to go explore, to pursue, or whatever, and do whatever you want to it.
There has to be a potential for something good, anything good to happen for me.
I think that's really the essential element of any good story. I mean, I know that it's kind of cliche, the Hollywood ending or whatever, and you got to have a story that's. Well, you don't really have to have a story that's all. I can't remember what Tolkien said, but he said something like, "The only stories worth telling are those that have some kind of happy ending." Now, I'm horribly paraphrasing.
I wouldn't go that far.
But like I said, I'm paraphrasing, but it's got to have something of good in it, or it's just it's like reading a history of the Holocaust. Just nothing good. There's no it's terrible from page 1 to page 300, and it's so some kind of redemption somewhere is a good thing.
Blaze asked, would you ever be interested in being submitted adventure novels set in your world for consideration of inclusion in canon?
Well, I certainly would. I'd have to be very careful about the canon part. Becomes very careful because many people look at they look at things very differently than I do. And if someone came in and wrote X, Y, whatever, and we put it out there, and then it becomes canon, then that restricts my ability to do something with the world that I wanted to do. Just because someone's done that direction. But I would be more than happy. I think Aihrde-based fiction would be badass. And if it didn't really kind
fiction, and it is badass. That's why I want Stephen Chenault.
And I'm going to finish that novel in the next couple of weeks. I feel it. Now that the Christmas adventure is done, there's nothing about Christmas in that adventure whatsoever.
No, it's holiday. It's festive. It's going to be so festive.
It's called Winter's Bite. There's not much festive in it.
No, everyone knows that when Santa Claus comes, you lay out your teeth for him to eat.
Before he pulls them. But now, Grace, this is all your fault. Every bit of it. As I wrote the whole thing, I thought this is all Grace's fault because I sent the cover to you, and you said no, that'll be fine. And
Yeah.
the cover is a blood swath on the snow. So
It's
that's on
red
you.
and white. It's blood on the
Yeah,
snow.
that is exactly what you said.
It's festive. uh it would be neat to run a modern day Supernatural campaign thinking Supernatural meets Buffy meets Dresden Files. That would be cool. I bet you could
That would
find
be
a way
very,
to connect those.
yeah, that would be very, very cool. I've always kind of wanted to, and I don't think that I have the wherewithal to do it because all of my background is in either whether it's real world history or fantasy.
Hmm.
But I think it'd be cool to somehow make a role playing game that's and to make it fun. I don't know how to do it, but to make it fun, it's kind of like X Files or Buffy or
Yeah.
whatever, the Supernatural, whatever. Because those things are really really cool, but I'm not certain they carry over so well to the table. They might, but just
Yeah.
not sure how to play over.
I think so. I've never seen an episode of Supernatural. I've never seen an episode of Buffy, and I've never seen whatever the other thing was, Dresden Files. Um, I wonder if that would behoove a writer when like going
Yeah,
about
there you go.
just I don't
Have
know,
you
get the
seen
cliff
the X?
notes.
Have you seen any of the X Files?
Is that the one where they're like do 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 do?
Yeah, maybe Skull, the redheaded, the FBI
I've
agents,
seen
Scully.
pictures of them on Tumblr. I've never seen an episode.
You could. I can't speak for the others. I'm vaguely aware of Supernatural just because my daughter watched it when it was out.
Yeah.
I've never watched the Dresden Files. Buffy, I've watched maybe 3 seasons of. My wife sat down and we both watched it about a year ago. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
X Files, very good, just very good stuff.
Do you know the bit like what is so Supernatural is angels and demons.
I thought
Buffy's
Supernatural was the
vampires.
two guys hunting, the two brothers that are hunting.
But don't they have like like Castiel, like an angel friend, and they fight like demons and
Maybe,
devils and stuff?
probably,
One of them
probably.
goes to hell for a second.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't watch enough of it. I know there's like 27 seasons or something. There's
A
an
million.
insane number. Yeah, there's an insane number of seasons.
Oh man. Oh man, I'm sure I missed something. Question:
One step ahead. You see it with like the hoodoos.
What do we not know about CNC that you think we should know? I've got an answer.
Fire.
The rules are optional. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people maybe don't understand that. I didn't understand it until it was like until I was slapped in the face with it like repeatedly. That
Yeah.
like the rules are kind of like it's meant to be a different game
Yeah.
for each table, and you can take or leave whatever you want.
Yep. And adjust it however you want. There's a in the player's handbook. There's a section, a table I think that lists which attributes are used for which saving throws. Dexterity for what I can, Constitution for poison or whatever. And I never use that. I never use that chart. I decide what attribute I want whatever event it is to be rolled. I don't ever use that chart. So yeah, it's very optional. Very, very optional.
Ooh, are there any cryptids or other urban legends written into Aired, or is that included at a GM's discretion?
Well, there's tons of stuff written into the histories, specifically the histories of the countries. So each of the, I mean, there's the Andanuth, which is I don't know, 125,000 words of history, which is the history of Aired. And then if you go in the Codex of Aired, if you go into each country listing, there's 2 to 3 pages per country, and then there's a history of that country. And in that section, I tried to put stuff in there that you can take or leave as a CK. This can be the way it is or not, whatever you want to be, whatever you want it to be. That's kind of because it's like Grace was talking about earlier. It's the world is so new
Oh, there's a whole
that
thing here.
what you're reading now has little impact, and you can adjust it as you need or want. Oh, that doesn't sound good. This should be like this, whatever.
It's the cool
I
book.
picture like the Codex of Aired is like a web that you can lay over your own setting or your own idea of a setting, and you have all the basic like Aired stuff. But then
Right.
you can like it's I don't know, you can like make certain
Yeah.
stuff bigger and make certain stuff smaller, and like you can
Well,
customize it yourself.
the nice thing, and again, building on that idea, you can. It's So you're running some characters, and they find a book, and they start reading about it. And this has the history of Aihrde, and the historian or the bard or whoever has legend lore can say, well, this passage here in the Andanuth, this is contested. This may not be what really happened. What we think happened, and then you change it and go in that
Yeah.
direction.
As is told
So
by the Mammoth Scrolls. Who knows who was writing that shit?
right, yeah. Who knows over there? They might have been on something. Who knows?
Oh, okay. I'll let you.
Three dwarves sitting around a what is the jar that you smoke out of? I can't remember what that thing's called. Whatever. Having a good
If
old
someone
time.
ever just wanted to totally overwrite the world of Aihrde, they could just say, and these were the scrolls that were found in like some gnome cavern at the edge of the world. Here's what really happened.
Right.
They were eating some hallucinogenic mushrooms, going crazy. Corgani says, you must have the heart of Azeroth because you make everything around you better.
I'm assuming he's talking to you.
No, come
Kathy
on. You don't
just
think Steve has
informed-
the heart of Azeroth?
Kathy just informed me that I do not.
Man, oh man. Wait, someone explained what those shows were.
Oh, did they?
Supernatural are hunters. They hunt monsters. Dresden Files is like a pulp urban fantasy. Think noir detective with magic in Chicago.
Okay. I probably would enjoy that.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I've got it. I think. I know how you would combine the the Dresden Files, Buffy, and Supernatural.
How's that?
You work for a noir detective agency in Chicago. There are like, you uncover the fact that the actual like angels that are referred to in the Bible are actually vampires, and vampires are the ancient defenders of all things good in the world. And you get sucked into this whole adventure where you're allied with vampires and you're fighting monsters that are actually like, ooh, those are the devils. And you have to solve the mystery of why they're all awake.
You did it, and you turned the ancient trope on its head.
It can be done.
It can be done.
Any modern fiction thing. I think modern fiction is a great resource for like inspiration for stuff.
Yeah, I haven't read too much just regular fiction, and I've kind of abandoned even fantasy after Game of Thrones. I haven't read too much fantasy fiction. I don't even know what I read anymore. I have no idea. There's a bunch of UFO books. Yeah, a whole bunch of UFO books. That's what's been going on lately. So
I just started reading fantasy again.
Did you?
Yeah, I haven't done it in like several years, aside from like this stuff, but I hadn't really read any fantasy in a long time, and finally just started again. I don't know if it's helping as much as like other stuff has, as far as inspiration for tabletop RPGs.
I think fantasy is interesting because it's when you read it, stuff from written in the 20s, there's none of the tropes exist. 20s, 30s, and 40s, none of the tropes exist. So it's just this crazy stuff that I find extremely helpful, imaginatively wise, because it makes me think in different avenues. And that carries up through the 60s or so. In the 70s and 80s, it starts becoming a little bit more commercial with the success of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
80s stuff is really good, but you start seeing the kind of thematically things, it's the evil Lord or whatever. Yeah, and by the 90s, that's when I kind of checked out. It was literally the, who's the giant Jordan, whatever, who has the giant 9,000 page books or whatever the hell it is. And I'm certain they're quite good, but I couldn't commit 6 months to struggling through his stories. I just kind of abandoned it. And that's when I just sunk ever deeper into history and discovered that humans in reality are actually crazier than almost anything we can imagine. Both good and bad.
In fact, like flash fiction and memoirs are crazy for inspiration for like high fantasy tabletop RPG material.
Yes. Yeah.
The crazier stories and the fewer words, like those are the ones that have really been like awesome.
And I found that characters just leap off of the pages when you're reading, because there's just people that they just do, for good and ill, they do strange things or things you would never expect for whatever reason,
Yeah, yeah.
or no reason at all. Who knows? But
Man, Dougie said, "My goal in any game that I play is to find, kill, and craft clothing out of a skinwalker. It's a bit of a personal quest."
it's good to have goals, man. You got
Yeah.
being goal oriented. That's not a
Set
bad thing.
reasonable goals for yourself, and then
Yes. There you go.
you do it in a few game systems first, and then you do it in real life. You go to Appalachia and
Not that we're advocating that you
for
become a
legal
skinwalker.
reasons.
Yeah. There's a whole thing. There's a whole Skinwalker's Ranch and the UFO stuff that I haven't dove into yet, but I'm going to
Yeah.
soon.
I'm sure it's interesting. I'm almost a little bit afraid to look into the history, or like in particular, I guess, not the history, the like the folk tales of
Yeah.
Appalachia. It's so
yeah.
old.
Yeah.
It's such an old region. There's some
It's an old-
crazy shit in there.
Yeah. It's an old part of the world, and people have been there for a very long time. So
Yeah.
they've had time to listen to what goes bump in the night and maybe see it if they were unlucky.
Man, oh man. I have to ask, is Mothman in Aired in any
Mothman.
capacity?
It is not in there in any capacity.
You're breaking my heart.
I tell you what, Davis, one of the things Davis and I talked about doing in this traveling kind of road show that we've pitched, that Davis and I just hit the road, is to go to each state, find out what each state's most popular or interesting or weird folk monster is, and going to investigate it. I think that would be kind of cool.
Come to Michigan. We'll look into the Dog Man.
There you
It'll
go.
be great.
That would be awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Man, let's see here.
But a lot of that stuff does play when you're world building. It plays beautifully into what you're trying to do. Because these legends and stories you can build, you can easily kind of weave them into stories about, and you don't have to do it. It can just be kind of the background noise that makes whoever's reading or watching kind of take a moment, think, wait, what?
Yeah. Sean asks, what's the Aired equivalent to the Tick, if any? I don't know what the Tick is.
The Tick is a superhero. He's a Tick. He's not really a Tick, but I think he's got like a Tick uniform.
Oh, God.
He's extremely sarcastic, as I remember. It's a TV show. It's really funny. The TV show is really funny. There's not an equivalent of the Tick in the world of Aired. Yet. We will see. We will explore that.
I guess, can we talk about the folk tales of Aired? I know that there's one about Narhite.
Tin Cup Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is like the story behind Tin Cup Tom?
So Narhite's the god of chaos, and he is my absolute favorite in all of the stories, because a lot of people like to compare him to Loki, and I don't really like to do that, because Loki kind of was a trickster, but Narhite is I don't know, he's not a trickster, he's just kind of mean, and he likes to break things for no purpose other than whatever. And sometimes it goes very well for him. His machinations destroyed all kinds of beauty that Aihlor, the god of the sea, created, and Aihlor thought it was funny. He found it quite amusing that Narhite came in and fucked everything up, and whatever. I think he made him go do something or what have you. But the coolest thing about Narhite are those that follow him. And Hild is the semi-goddess that is the chief of the worshippers of Narhite. She's the witch of witches, if you will, however you want to call it. She's just called Hild. But what's cool about the followers of Narhite, they don't really do what Narhite wants them to do. They don't ever follow any credo or stock or anything like that, as would be natural for a god like Narhite. Now, it infuriates Narhite that those people who he relies upon never almost never do, as he plans for them to do. So his even whatever small religious cult, whatever fabric that Narhite may have, is one riddled with absolute chaos.
Yeah.
But what Narhite likes to do, and what Hild specifically likes to do, is she lures children away for their innocence and either devours them or poisons them and gives them over to Tefnut. Tefnut, the river goddess, one of the things that she does. Those children that die very young, you can lay them you can bury them in the waters of Aihrde, and Tefnut will come, and that child will become a servant of Tefnut for all time. Well, Hild likes to do. She'll take these poisoned children and poison Tefnut's, the goodness that Tefnut's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
She also she's just a horrible creature. In her den, near her den, is this huge pile of children's shoes. I mean, it's just this large pile of children's shoes. But one of the ways that both Narhite, Hild, and some of the other witches lure these children away is just by the tin cup. The idea of this little noise that pulls the child away, sort of like the Pied Piper thing. It's a noise that attracts the child, and the child follows the noise into the wilderness until it's lost and then rescued by whatever. So that's where the whole kind of tin cup thing from Tin Cup Tom, Tin Cup Tom. What was the next verse? I can't remember it. You've done a fantastic. Yeah, you've done a fantastic rendition of it.
Much appreciated.
And I absolutely love nursery rhymes. I think that I don't know, they're just laced with all kinds of meaning, both good and bad, and it just fascinates me.
They're so interesting because, like, it's such an immersive detail for, like, world building. Like, it's the literal, like, how would you explain this element of your world to a child, and how would you make it, like, fun for them? I feel like that's one of the ultimate, like, it just makes it feel really real to me.
Yeah. It gives it a depth, and I think and that's one of the things I'm working on for that module now. Children express their fears and their emotions far different than adults do.
Yeah.
Because the child doesn't really understand what it's afraid of, right? So that's where these rhymes and these things come from, or adults create them to pacify the child. But I mean, you can see all kinds of just culturally. Children throughout the world, throughout time, have always created their own language, their own. I mean, what is this skibbity dibbity toilet guy? Whatever. that thing. It's and every generation has that, right? I mean, they create their own language. That, whether it spreads in just the local community or it spreads. Obviously, the internet allows such things to spread wider. The phone did before that. Newspapers, whatever, comic books, but I think that when you get into the way children express themselves, it's like you said, there's a depth there that's not normal, in world building and whatnot. It just kind of pops. I've got about, I don't know, about 6 of them. The other one that's completed is 5 Doors for Me. And this one's one of my favorite because it's basically, this one is a nursery rhyme that is from parents to their children. And it's basically do your chores, because it goes, so the Gilgamesh, for those who don't know, the Gilgamesh is the wretched plains, which is another word for hell. And it's Mama said to sweep the floor, but dust I leave, Gilgamesh, 5 doors for me. So the 5 doors are the way you get to the wretched plains. And I shouldn't say it's hell because hell's abstract, but the wretched plains is the wretched plains for And then the next one is Papa said to chop the wood, but cold he will be, Gilgamesh, 5 doors for me. So it's just really this kind of. And I shouldn't say it's from adults; it's from children kind of taunting their parents for not having done their chores. And yes, I'm going to hell, or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know already.
Right.
I'm going to the Gilgamesh.
Exactly. And what I would eventually like to do is get a huge number of these together, and put them in an Aihrde folktale book. I think would be very cool.
I'm just trying to think of the most, like, incomprehensible Gen Z way to, like, respond. That just sounds like a totally different language.
There's no way I can repeat it, but I was sitting here working one day. Now, I guess both of my sons, I guess all my children are Gen Z. So they walked in, the 2 boys walked in, and Wilson, the younger of the 2, this is about 2 years ago, so he was 16 or whatever he was. And I don't know what he said. It was a whole sentence because I was typing and he was talking to Pete and he says it and I stopped and said, "What did you say?" I had no idea. Even context wise, it was hilarious. I mean, I was out. I don't know what was going on.
I'm barely keeping up.
Yeah. Well, it's a whole language. I mean, it is an
Oh,
entire, which is
yeah.
cool.
It's
I mean,
awesome. It's awesome to
yeah,
see.
yeah. It's just the way language is, it evolved.
Yeah. Chuck has arrived to defend Narhite's good name, saying that Narhite cares.
No, I cares.
Here's the thing. Speaking of Gen Z, if the book talk girlies ever get a hold of Narhite, that is a fandom for decades to come.
That would be cool.
They're gonna
That would
see
be so cool.
Narhite. They're gonna be like, I can fix him. He's the
That would
most
be.
like enemies to lovers character in like the romantasy genre. He's
Yeah,
so romantasy coded. It's not even funny.
that's funny. I don't really see Narhite as evil. I really don't.
Yeah.
He is, but just in a way, it's like it's sort of like, so. This is a great moment from my childhood. When I was a kid, I played with all these little toy soldiers and whatnot, and I stood them all up on my dresser, which was not the bureau, but the dresser. So it's really long, right?
Yeah.
And I had them each standing maybe half an inch apart. And my oldest brother Zane came in and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm having a big battle." And he goes, "Well, what happens if something shakes the dresser?" And I goes, "Well, the dresser's not going to shake." So he went, and and they all just went, blah, blah, blah. Everything fell down. So it was a life lesson. But he wasn't like being evil.
Yeah, yeah.
He
That's
was
a guy being
educated.
like, see?
Narhite's just an educator. That's all he is.
You know what? Honest to God. So I don't know if you know much about like Critical Role or that whole
A
world.
little bit.
Love them or hate them. They have gotten to a place with their actual play where there was like improvised, like one of the characters checked out a book from the library and they were like, "What's the book about?" And so the DM did like, "Well, it's a romantic book about the daughter of a merchant and a mercenary who are traveling together, but their hearts start to, but they can't because what would their parents think?" I don't know. They made this like fake novel. They wrote it and actually
Yeah.
published it, and now it's a real novel. I would love to one day, if I have time during the work week, write an in-universe novel that is like a Narhite romance.
That would be fantastic.
That would rock. That would rule.
That would be cool. One of the things I will eventually build for Aired, and you should dive into this because you probably get into this. I
Yeah.
would like to build a library of titles, so
Mm,
that say you're running an adventure and someone enters a room and you're describing the room. There's 12 books on the shelves, and players do the same thing every single time, every single game, every single type of game.
yeah.
What are the books about? And
Yeah.
so the CK's got nothing. So, but if I had
Oh,
like 1,000 titles of books that were published and aired,
yeah.
you could just pluck them out. We don't have to write them, but this is this, this is this, this is this.
Well, yeah, like titles and then like a little, the blurb on the back or something.
That would be very cool.
That's almost a built-in book of adventure hooks right there. Like
That's true.
some are
Yeah,
legends of like, oh, maybe this is real and you can go to this place and
maybe the
check it
Dragon
out.
Throne exists. Whatever it is. Yeah.
Still,
How's
um,
it, Phantom?
hey, welcome in Phantom. Sean asks, what kind of games do the children of Aired play? Grace, what do they chant while jumping rope? Oh God, rhymes on the spot.
Impossible. Games in air are almost all centered around winter or some facet of it, because the winter dark lasts for 1,000 years. It's 60 years later. Grandparents, they grew up in that. So the games that they were born into it. So the games that the grandparents are playing are passed down. So there's so much winter, snow, cold, ice born into the culture of air that it's kind of mind numbing.
I think that when they jump rope, it's something like knock knock on Norgarad cam, and then they have to come up with a rhyme and not me about something that rhymes with cam, like I'm bringing a Christmas ham, and then you have to keep coming up with things that you're bringing to a Norgarad cam, and the first person who like can't say it anymore loses the game.
There you go. That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect.
Because it's like their little feet are stomping on the ground and Orgrad Cam is underneath.
That encapsulates child's play perfectly. Because that's what they do.
And then odd one-man question, what has impressed you when you see players play CNC?
Oh, it's always when they push the envelope of what their characters can do.
Yeah.
Whenever you can see that moment when they're like, okay, wait a minute. I can try this.
The
Yeah,
spark,
you can see.
it's there.
Yep. Yeah. And suddenly they leave their character sheet behind
Mm-hmm.
and they go for it. And it's the most fun to watch 5th edition players do that because 5e is a great game and it's got a good attribute check system and all that stuff. But they're very 5th edition players. A lot of times they're younger and they're newer to the hobby, so they haven't kind of been exposed to just some of the game systems. Whatever you had to make up shit. So when they take that kind of that leap, it's really really cool.
Yeah, man. When we were playing, oh god, I can't remember the name of our own actual play. Storm's Front. On our YouTube channel.
You're becoming more troll lordist every day.
Like, what do we do again? What is that game called? What's the system? Was it Crypts and Keepers? I don't know.
Right.
My character was a seeker, and in 5e it's pretty strict about like what you can and can't do with your weapons and stuff like that. And my character Enwyn, through just the rolls of the dice and me being stupid, just canon in this events of the story was really great at not using her sword but throwing her sword at things. It was just about the only way I could do damage to anything.
That's a dice thing going on there.
Oh, yeah. But it was that thought, like in CNC, if it's a thrown weapon you use your dexterity, and if it's a swing weapon you use your strength. And I didn't want to use my strength because it wasn't good, so
I throw it. And it hopefully works.
Just fingers crossed, and if I lose my sword, well, I lose my sword.
Yeah. Willie the Rat says, how do modern kids learn the traditional games rhymes? We learn just playing in the street. That's always fascinated me because it happens before the internet, right? I mean, these nursery rhymes, whatever they are, they cross, and it moves pretty fast. That's always fascinated me how that happens. I don't know how it happens. I don't know what that medium of communication is.
I remember that when I was like 12 or something at like summer camp, maybe I was older, I think I had just turned 13, there was like a little rhyme that was like, peel the orange, peel the orange, peel the orange, peel the orange, peel the avocado, and it just like goes on with like vegetables.
All right.
And that was the first time I heard that, and I thought it was just like a summer camp thing. Years later, I'm hearing it as like a nursery rhyme for like babies. Like, did I just witness the birth of a new nursery rhyme?
You did,
and that's new the thing. Nursery rhymes.
And pre-internet, pre-TV, how does that? But it definitely stuff spread. I mean, what is the spider? The spout, whatever, up the spout, little itty bitty spider, whatever, the water spout. Things, they make the rounds somehow.
Well, I think that kids learn that stuff the same way that we learned it, which is our parents saying it to us. That's the same way that like oral traditions have always been passed down. People just don't stop sharing it, and as long as people don't stop sharing it, it keeps living.
It lives on forever.
Lives forever. Oh, another one is like baby shark do 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 do, baby shark do 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 do. That was not a nursery rhyme when I was a baby.
So skibbity dibbity toilet whatever will be a nursery rhyme in 10 years.
Skibbity goes the toilet.
That stuff cracks me up. Back in the 80s there was Max Headroom, which was just this. It was just this head you can see on YouTube. It was just this electrified head that made noise, and you know what's going on. I know my father, if he had seen it, he'd be like, "What's going on here?" And then he wouldn't have cared because he didn't care about any of that crap stuff.
The stuff that's on kids' TV, not to sound like a crotchety old, anyone, but the stuff that's on kids' TV is weird.
So I will send you, I'll drop in the team chat when I can find it, the late 60s and the early 70s wins hands down for weird TV for kids. Because I think everyone was on LSD or something in the creative. Because there's these squid-like creatures, and it's crazy. It's absolutely.
Wait, you do that? I'll grab a recent episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, and we'll
Yes,
compare side by side.
there you go. That's perfect. I'm a huge fan of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh my god, me too. But the recent stuff is like off the wall.
Is
like,
it really? I haven't
nuts.
seen the recent stuff. Oh, I'll have to. Yes, HR Puffin stuff. That's one of them, and there's another one I can't remember the name of it. Just absolutely crazy. Sid and the Marty Croft. That's the one. So Moose and Death Angel, they have survived the '60s like I did. So they see. I'll have to check out SpongeBob. I love SpongeBob. Of all the characters in all fiction of all time, he has the greatest work ethic of anybody.
Honestly, showing good ethics and role models
Yes.
and the importance of working hard.
Yes, absolutely. And not letting life's, trials and tribulations get you down.
Yeah.
No matter what happens to SpongeBob, just keeps going.
So where would one put a Google Doc of a fantasy story we want Steve to see? You've unfortunately said a series of words that are not compatible together.
I'm not a huge fan of Google. we won't put anything from. I know the trolls do it, but we don't officially put anything on Google. Best just email it to me. We'll put it on a Facebook.
Send it to product support at Trollord.
There you go. There you go.
I'll put it into a text file and send it to Steve.
If Google would behave properly, it just doesn't. So
Fair.
We don't have any cool. Well, maybe a few, but most of our billionaires are not cool these days. They used to build things, parks or libraries or whatever. But
billionaires back in my day.
Back in my day,
the billionaires were moral. Now you
everything's gone to hell. Even our billionaires.
Millennial billionaires with your avocado toast. I understand the assignment and eat the rich.
There you go.
If
I were a billionaire, I would pick the most remote place in the United States, and I would build a castle of biblical proportions.
Yeah.
And I would just abandon it. I would just leave it. I'm good. Here's a castle. Do with it what you will.
You pull a castle zagging and just dip.
Just go. Yeah.
Let people make of it what they will.
Yeah. Then people, like 100 years ago, going, what idiot built a castle out here in the middle of the desert or whatever,
In crazy historians from centuries and millennia in the future would go back to that castle and be like, what does it mean?
Exactly.
It must have been significant. It's here.
And they would find some weird CNC and Aihrde stuff. And
Yeah.
Well, this is what these people believed in those days.
Oh yes, the Allfather and Narhite. Ooh, what's this weird novel?
It would be perfect. It would be the perfect legacy. And it would be the best Narhitian legacy of all time. So.
Best thing ever. If we can confuse the future historians,
Yes.
that's really all we can hope for.
That is a noble goal.
It needs to have a deep dungeon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dungeons would be good.
Oh, yes. Isn't there an actual European castle that was made by a mad king? Is that real?
Yes, that is Ludwig II, and it's Neuschwanstein is what they're saying. He built 3 castles, and Neuschwanstein is the most famous, but he built 2 others. I can't remember the name of them. I've actually been in Neuschwanstein, but yeah, he's called Ludwig. He's Ludwig the Mad King, and it's the most beautiful. Literally, you've seen it. You've all seen it. I guarantee you've all seen it. It's got the white tower and the thing. It's got tables that raise up and down into the floors. I mean, it's all kinds of stuff.
Damn,
it's pretty cool.
That's
awesome. Good. I mean, he just Cinderella's castle. He just left this castle on the side of the Bavarian mountains. It's just cool. And then there's that dude down in Florida. Didn't he what did he build? Dinosaurs? He built a whole bunch of dinosaurs and left them. No, wait, it's some kind of stones. There's some kind of big stones piled around. We don't know what he was doing. There's just stones all over the place.
Neuschwanstein,
Neuschwanstein, yes.
Neuschwanstein. Okay.
Where's Funstein?
That's the castle.
I
That's like the Mad King Ludwig.
Okay.
It's like the
yeah.
one that the Disney castle is based off of. Sorry.
Cool.
Yeah, I guarantee you've seen pictures of it. If you've been on
I'm sure I
Pinterest,
totally have.
yeah, the Coral Castle. Yes, that kind of dude down in Florida that just did some weird shit, and
Yeah,
that's cool.
no,
No one knows what he was doing.
I did not.
Oh, that's awesome, Blaze. I think I would go there all the time.
One thing that I'm thinking about is like, man, I wish that like more kings had like designed their own stuff, because something that I'd be very interested to see is a study of like the design choices of mad kings versus
Not.
good kings.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be very cool. And you know, when you've got, I don't know, it's not limitless money, obviously, but when you've got that kind of ability to project, you should do it. You know, leave a
Yeah.
legacy of some interest.
Yeah,
You know, somewhere.
exactly. I think if I got $1 billion, no one would ever see or hear from me
Probably the better route to go. So if you're ever so Grace will disappear, but if any of you are ever just driving somewhere and you see this giant castle in the middle of nowhere, you'll know, you'll be able to say Steve made $1 billion.
Good for Steve.
Yeah, he made it. And then I'll be in Tatum having cheeseburgers at the Burger Barn.
Lifetime supply.
That's right.
There is a book series about like a fiction. It's like sort of, I guess technically it's like a young adult series about like the end of the world. And like each major culture of Earth has like a champion who has like anticipated this end of the world and has been training their whole lives, because all of them have to kill each other, and then the last one standing is the culture that survives the end of the world.
Yeah.
So it's this big like puzzle, and the author of that book, I don't know where he got the money to do this. He buried $100,000 on Earth somewhere,
Oh,
and
nice.
put clues in the novel about the coordinates of the money and used it as publicity.
That's brilliant.
So that like
That-
some person could like solve the riddle and go get the treasure.
Oh yeah, I love watching shows on modern day treasure hunters, and I'm sure they're eating that up like there's no tomorrow.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's cool to see stuff like that. That's the type of thing it would be, I think. Treasure
Yeah.
hunts.
That's a good legacy.
That's a good billionaire. That's a billionaire with honor.
Yeah, it's like we had back in my day.
Well, it's just about that time to go ahead and toss a raid. It looks like our buddies over at Swole Initiative are live, so maybe we can go say hi to them. Initiative Network. They're playing some Magic the Gathering. So
Excellent.
we're gonna gather for the magic.
Gather for the magic.
Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you, Steve, for joining. It was super, super fun.
Thank you
Always
for
love
having
it.
me. Thanks everybody.
And go hang out if you have a moment to spare. Just say hi to the folks at Swole Initiative. They're super cool. They run a great stream. It means a lot to people when folks raid in and then like stick around for a second and say hi. So if you got the time to do it, I would consider it a personal favor. But yeah, thank you for your time tonight. And I will see you same bat time, same bat place next week. Any last words? Not last words. That's threatening. I'm sorry. Any final thoughts to share?
I don't have my castle yet. Join me tomorrow at 4:30. I'll be on for Ask Me Anything.
Yeah.
And then Chuck after that on Wednesday, and we will be back Thursday. So join us for our various weekly shows. And thanks everybody for coming out.
Before the holidays.
Oh yeah, shit. I guess there's no Thursday show, but yes.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Right.
We're gonna go in peace, make the words do good, and we will see you guys next time. Thanks again.